Okay. I've got a little mini presentation here. Let's see if this thing is even live. I don't know if it's live. Yeah. Okay. Great. Um. All right. So let me see if this works. Yeah. So I'm going to start with this statement by Michael Saylor, which I find very interesting. He obviously made this statement about 6 months ago before the big move in gold and silver, but I think he probably would still abide by it. Hey, so the statement is that all commodities except Bitcoin are garbage investments. The reason he says this is very simple. Um, every other commodity can be increased in supply. So you need oil, you can make more oil. Technology allows you to create new sources of oil with fracking. You want more silver, you can mine more silver. You want more gold, you can mine more gold. Ultimately, you can discover gold in the oceans, you can discover it on asteroids. These are commodities. They can be just, the supply can be increased. Bitcoin, the supply cannot be increased. And, at the end of the day, right now, gold looks like an amazing investment. In fact, it's beaten the S&P uh, along a lot of different time measures. Certainly since 2000, it's beaten the S&P now. And I'm not sure versus 1971 if that's the case, or 1980 or 2010, but it's doing extremely well. Um, but along a kind of a longer term path, it is not beating the S&P. It's not beating Bitcoin yet. Okay, so hey, Ordinal tweets. Good to hear you. Okay. So I got more slides here. So that's this slide. So now silver is clearly on a tear. We know that. But let's talk about how big of a tear and let's look really out. This is the the longer term chart of silver. And you can see that what we have done in the last couple weeks is just extraordinary. I mean, we are on an absolute hyperbolic curve. And if you just project this thing out, I mean, silver is going to go to $1,000 in the next, in the next month. It's going up 10% a year, a month, a day. So it is absolutely in, kind of a blow off top type scenario. And, these things generally don't end well. I mean, look at this top. Boom. You know, you had, 10 years of just going down from that, or even more like 20 years. Um, you know, we had it earlier, we can't see on this chart, but we had some earlier moves in the 70s, similar to this. So, this is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Um, and a lot of people are like, is it going to revert to a power law? Silver is not a power law. This is an exponential bubble in something that is not a power law at all. Okay, so that's the history of silver. Something really extraordinary is going on now, but it's not just silver. I mean, people are like, well, silver is used in solar panels, it's used in Teslas, it's used in web cruise missiles. Yeah, it's true. But all metals are going up, right? And so gold's up 70%. Platinum is up 100% this year. Palladium is up 80%. So it's not just a silver thing. I know everybody wants to focus in on why silver is so extraordinary all of a sudden, but it's not. It's all these things. They're all going up. Um, so why? Why are they all going up? Um, what it's not is some new demand. There's not some new demand going back to You know, there's not some new demand going back to this curve here. We didn't suddenly find some need for silver that we didn't have back in 2024. We didn't. And it's not like we all of a sudden need so much more silver. So that's not the case. It's not new demand. Now, is it geopolitical? Yeah, to some extent. I mean, one thing that has changed since April is Trump is on a rampage with these tariffs and literally creating an economic war with China. That's a factor. But the real factor is this growing realization, and it's kind of happening right now, this growing realization that there's no exit from debt except inflation. And that's kind of the Larry Lepard thesis, right? Which is, we're suddenly realizing that inflation must be coming. And it's not going to come this year, not coming next year. AI is going to cut down on it. But this debt that we have piled up, you know, 38 trillion of it, okay, is going to be increasingly monetized. Now, you got people like Ro Khanna who are saying, no problem. We're just going to tax the billionaires. You're not going to tax. You're not going to tax people. Taxation is not the solution here. The solution is inflation. So that's what's going to happen. And I think people are realizing that there's no exit except through inflation. So really, there's two scenarios here, right? There's two scenarios. I think both of them are plausible. I'm not saying it's going to be one or the other. I'm leaning a little bit towards one, but they both are possible. Scenario one is it's a bubble and it pops. New supply materializes. Asteroid will melt down his silverware. He sells a silver bar. A lot of people have silver. Tom Young sitting there in the audience counting his silver coins. People have silver. They're going to bring that silver to bear. Mines will go into oversupply. They'll start working night and day. They'll start mining new silver. It'll materialize. And we don't have to wait for it to materialize, because as long as people realize that it's going to materialize, the markets will look forward and they're going to start dumping. So the derivative markets will see that before the supply actually materializes. That's in scenario one. And that brings us to this garbage investment thesis, right? So, it's a crisis and we're in short supply until we aren't. And all of a sudden this market's going down. And instead of going down 10% a day, it's starting to go down. Up 10% a day, it's going down 10% a day. So this is why it's a garbage investment, right? Bitcoin doesn't have this problem. You cannot increase the supply of Bitcoin. You can't sort of melt down your old Bitcoins and turn them in. You can, to some extent, take your old Bitcoins that are out in cold storage and sell them. You can do that. But, there is no new Bitcoin mining. It's not going to increase the number of Bitcoins per day. So in that scenario, silver collapses to something like $20, $30. Now, Larry Lepard wrote to me and he goes, that's never going to happen. We're never going to see $50 silver ever again. Very confident. He may be right. I don't know. But that's scenario one. But, scenario one's kind of what has happened in the past. And that's what I think is probably likely. I think this is probably a bubble. I think it'll probably end. And I think when it ends, because of how fast this thing is gone, look how fast this thing is gone. This thing cannot continue until here. It just can't. Okay. So if it's going to collapse, it's going to collapse quickly. So, so that's scenario one, like it's done before, probably the most likely scenario. But in that scenario, I would argue Bitcoin will benefit because capital will rotate back into BTC, and this kind of silver FOMO, gold FOMO, Peter Schiff telling us how Bitcoin is so stupid every single day of the week. And now all these new Bitcoin people literally calling me a crypto whore and saying that silver is God's money. That's what they say. It's God. Suddenly it's become God's money. It's amazing. All right. I think this will benefit Bitcoin. And again, remember, this is not just silver. It's gold, it's platinum, it's palladium. Anything that you can invest in that's hard money is going up. Okay, so I think Bitcoin has not moved, but this thing continues at all, Bitcoin will go up. Second scenario. Second scenario, we kind of have a big print. This is more like the Lehman moment, and something is behind this. I'm not saying this is not going to happen. Interest rates go to 2%, inflation going up, Bitcoin benefits. And that's it. So I think at the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, that's what I think is the possibility.